Hi, this is Dr. Kerry Johnson. I hope you've been doing your market updates this last week effectively. A couple of things I want to start out with. Number one is make 5 RPCs every day. I want you to increase your income. I want you to have the same income you did last year as a baseline. I want you to increase beneficially so that it's actually going to be better than it ever has been before. You can't do this unless you're making 5 RPCs every day. Number two, when you're doing your market updates, make sure you're talking about only 3 market update points. If you talk about too much, they're not going to feel very confident. If you talk about too few, it doesn't seem like that important. So talk about only 3. You have to have enough depth on these market updates to be able to engage in the conversation. So if you say something like, hey, the market's really bad, what do you think about this? You're not going to get discussion. You're not going to sound like an expert to these people. They need support. They need to know what's going on. And you need to be able to have a market update that's effective enough, expertise enough that you can discuss the issues. And number 3, don't forget to ask for referrals. When you're talking to clients, not prospects, if you can't find needs, if you have all their assets, all their money, just ask for a referral. The three sentences are, number 1, I really enjoy working with you. Number 2, I'm not sure you know this, but 83% of your friends, colleagues, family are going to run out of money during retirement. They're going to end up on Social Security. They're really, really in trouble right now. Number 3, who do you know who could benefit from some of the things that we've done so far? Okay, here's our market update for the week. 3 things. Everything's in 3 with me. Number 1, in 2009, the unemployment was 10%. Today, it's 17%. We have 110 million people working in the U.S. There's 17 new unemployment applications that have been done in the last 2.5, 3 weeks. The only thing you could compare that with is the Great Depression of 1929. In 2009, the unemployment was 10%. In 2009, the Great Depression hit 10%, but actually it took maybe 3 months to a year. In 2009, the 10% happened within about a year. That was the high point of the unemployment. Today it's a 70%, and that happened within just a couple of weeks. You've got to talk about that because unemployment informs on growth rates in the economy. 75% of GDP is there because of consumer spending. When people are unemployed, they're not spending. This is a very important metric. Number 2, debt to GDP at the worst case in our country's history was in World War II. Pretty much every penny the country made were going to the war effort. People were buying war bonds to support things. People were on rations. And debt to GDP in World War II was right about 100%. Today, it's approaching 130%. We have a $2 trillion new debt that was added, $2.2 trillion added in the last couple of weeks. Congress is talking about adding another $2 trillion, $4 trillion in total, and I don't think that's where they're going to stop. I think it'll be up to $6 trillion before we're out of the woods on this stuff. Now, if it only happens for a couple of months, it's probably not a really big deal, but debt tends not to be paid down. It tends to extend, and we're approaching 130 trillion, 130% debt to GDP within a very short amount of time. Number 3, we're not at the bottom yet. I keep hearing, well, we just had a market rally a couple of days ago, went up 700 points. Well, the market went up by 1,100 points, 7% within a couple of days ago. We must be out of the woods. It's going to be a V-shaped recovery. Don't let people convince you of that. Here's a graph I want to show you about the number of days it took to go from a high to the end of a bear market. In 1930, it took about 650 days to go to a bottoming process before it started going back up. Nearly 2 years. In 2007, it took about 150 days. Now, that's not the same as how long it takes people's money to recover. In 2008, it took nearly 8 years if you lost $1 to get that dollar back. In 1930, It took nearly 14 years. Sorry about that. 1929 to 1941, 1942. That was about 12 to 13 years for that market, that money to come back. We're seeing in 1929, not 2007. What this means is that bottoming process is going to be more than, if you do the depression model, not the 2007 model, it's going to be 650 days before we see the bottom of the market. So if you hear people saying, well, it's going to pop right back up, it'll be a V-shaped recovery, refer them to what you know about 1929. There's a really big difference. Okay? That's your market update for the week. 5 RPCs every day. Only do 3 talking points. And remember, don't let people tell you they're going to wait it out, because we may not be at the bottom. We may be lose a lot more money. The market may go down a lot more, as you can see from this graph I showed you, in the next weeks, months, or even years. I hope not, but even years. Make 5 RPCs every day.